listening to Anthony on the Virus, Sirius XM.
How Booze Built America, tomorrow, 10 p.m. on Discovery Channel. Yeah. Now, what does this cover? The entire history of booze in America?
That's all. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we want to take a small, modest bite, so we went with two, enduring institutions. Actually, what happened was I just couldn't do dirty jobs anymore.
Yeah. Finally had it.
Well, it's not done. It's just that, each year you'd write down like a slightly different goal, like 5 more, 10 more, 3 more states, and, 100 jobs, 200 jobs. So we wound up doing 300 jobs. We got to all 50 states, wound up going to Australia, and we came back, and it was like, look, what would a world look like where we just didn't do this for a minute, And everybody said, well, we don't know. What would it look like? And so we had this big talk, and what it came down to was, what do you like? And I said, I like booze and I like history. So let's do a show about booze and history.
History of booze.
But it really is pretty amazing. I mean, if you look back, from the day the Pilgrims landed, which, by the way, they weren't going to Plymouth, they were going to Virginia. They landed in Plymouth because they ran out of beer. And, beer was every single day, gallons and gallons and gallons. They drank 6-7 times the amount of beer we drink. Their kids drank beer every day.
Nice.
And so, from the taverns, to the sugar tax, to the molasses tax, to the Revolution, to the Civil War, to all through Prohibition, of course, every single major thing that impacted the country, booze is always in the room.
The whole thing was a bar fight, basically. That's
one
all
big
it
giant
was.
bar crawl. That's exactly right. Yeah, the fur trappers, that went west were following Indian trails, but of course there was no money back then, so the only real currency were beaver pelts and booze. So all the commerce that drove the country west happened because people were trading and alcohol. And, it's not the most glorious way to look at the country, but it's actually really cool. And the more you learn, the more interesting it gets. And so the next thing you know, you're in a bar recreating Carrie Nation. Ring any bells with you guys?
Prohibition woman there.
Yeah, it was more like temperance, right? So it's, 1904. This is a scene in one of the episodes that I love, but we do these elaborate recreations that I'm allowed to basically walk through. So it's like Forrest Gump meets Zelig, and I'm just this guy in a T-shirt and a ball cap. Suddenly, it's 1904. We're in Sullivan's Bar here in New York. John O'Sullivan, bare knuckle boxing champion. It's a true story. And Carrie Nation walks into the bar, who at the time is a little over 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, carrying a hatchet. And she had been doing these things called hatchetings all over the country, where she'd walk into a bar and just tear the shit out of it. She was very angry.
What a bitch.
Yeah.
What did she have up her ass?
Well, a couple alcoholic ex-husbands and just, it was just a trail of tears, right?
Yeah.
So
I bet they were real nice back then. Yeah.
So she's on the leading edge of making sure booze is off the table. And the point of this show is to say, okay, there's a moment where John Sullivan, bare knuckle boxing champion, is running for his life from a lunatic with a hatchet who's tearing up his bar. And had that not happened, we don't go to the moon.
All right. Now you got to figure out how that connects.
Exactly. And so the show really becomes a look at a series of seemingly disparate events that ultimately push us to the moon.
Did somebody in that bar run out? And was there a woman who was going to go home, but she got scared in the locker room, so she fucked this guy, Frank Armstrong?
It's like you've seen the show.
Frank Armstrong. She got all hammered.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it's just one of those. It's an old formula, but you make a crazy claim, and everybody looks at you, and they go, no, that's not possible. And then 10 minutes later, they're going, that might be possible. And then 20, you're like, oh, you know what, I can see how this could happen.
You connected the dots.
Yeah, because, thanks.
But is it an accurate connection, or is it like 6 degrees of separation?
That's not possible.
No, it's totally accurate. So Carrie Nation gets you to temperance. Temperance goes to prohibition. Billions are made in illegal booze. One of the guys who made all that money is Joe Kennedy Sr.
Yeah.
Joe Kennedy Sr. has John Kennedy. Wade leads on to Way. He gets him elected. West Virginia, swing state.
And the
Kennedy's
end
in
of this
office.
decade, we will go to the moon and do those other things. Wow, yeah, okay.
We were just talking about Joe Kennedy and booze.
Yeah, you must know a lot of about that whole situation.
I just told you everything. I know.
Yeah, that's
pretty much
that's Joe Kennedy, something about some booze.
William Bradford was the diarist on the Mayflower, and he wrote extensively about it. We are much spent, especially our victuals and our beer. But back in 1620,
It's a text I just sent to Ange, who takes care of my kegs.
They were also probably
We're down in the
exhausted
middle.
from the trip over. Like, fuck Virginia, pull over.
I mean, you've got to remember too the whole idea of today we don't even think about it. I mean, they didn't have longitude back then, right? So you don't know exactly where you're going anyway. Finding longitude is the single biggest mathematical riddle ever solved, and it was a multi-million-dollar prize.
Well, they had to give the people a lot of latitude to find that longitude.
You know what?
hey
You were a
now.
man of
We ain't
direction.
following that. That was a good one.
Chip is like,
Anthony
that's
Durante.
a good one.
Paging Victoria
Gotcha.
Gotti.
A latitude and longitude.
Ultimately, I mean, back then it was all the celestial clock. So if it were cloudy, you just didn't know anything. But a guy named John Harrison invented a better watch, a watch that could actually keep time on a boat. And until then, they were all pendulum clocks. You put a pendulum clock on the deck of a heaving ship, forget it.
Yes.
But eventually, it was Harrison's invention that figured out longitude.
They were trying to sell one of those on Pawn Stars, of course, different network.
course,
I'm sorry,
yes.
but they somebody came in trying to sell one of those clocks, and
was a fraud.
It was like, no, it was real, and he wanted like $10,000 for it, and I think they offered him like $300. Well, he's got to leave it in his shop. I don't know. It's got to be framed.
Takes forever
It's got to
to
be
wind it.
refurbished. Yeah, it takes the work to wind it. I'll give you $300, and then the guy took $500 for it and went, oh, I'm going to take my wife out to dinner here in Vegas. Every episode.
Every episode. What do you want for that? $5,000. And then he goes, what do you really want for that? He's like, started laughing. And then that's it. And then they go, $40.
I'll take
How about
it.
29?
29.
39,
It's just
and
not
he goes,
selling.
and he goes 29, and he always wins, and it makes me mad after a while. Like I just
Oh,
want
yeah.
somebody to get something that's even remotely worth what they're
Right.
bringing in there.
Do they
Yeah,
walk
it's
out ever with
so
their
annoying.
items? Do they ever just
Yes,
go, fuck
some
this
say
thing?
There
no.
are people that walk out, and
Does
they
he ever
look,
give in?
They look more pathetic than anybody else on the show. Even the people that sell it for too cheap. The people that walk out, okay, I'm just taking this and leaving the pawn store.
You think I got to interview them after they got raped? Well, I got 18% of what I wanted.
They do. They say that. I like the guys that walk out because I'd like to know how often they come back in a little while later because they realize I can't gamble with this.
It's like,
I need
let's
to
make
get
a
money.
deal meets the People's Court.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
With Doug Llewellyn's waiting outside. Well, how'd
Doug
you think of
Llewellyn,
going there? Like, honestly, it wasn't pleasant.
I always hated his upper lip. Doug
Llewellyn?
Llewellyn. Oh, what a terrible
Why,
upper
was
lip.
it-
It was just non-existent.
Yeah, he didn't
Never
have one.
noticed.
No,
Yeah.
really ruined the show for me.
You're listening to Anthony.
Ford. Well, when I started working with them, the old model was one or two a day, right? I mean, we did a spot for the Super Bowl back in 2004 that took 2 days to shoot a 30-second spot. 5 years later, we were doing 20 spots in one day.
Wow.
Did you get better or did they get more efficient? Or both?
I haven't gotten better at anything in a long time, honestly. But what happened was we just had a big conversation about just, I mean, this sounds kind of glib, but just telling the truth, and the truth of dirty jobs, which all that is based on, is no second takes. We just never do a second take, and the people are genuine. It's like, look, you guys hired me because you like this show, and if you like this show and we want to try and do a thing over here, maybe what we ought to do is the same basic thing we do in the show, and then that way, there would be sense in the world, right? And I'm like, well, we'll try it. And so we actually shot closer to 40. They were looking to use 3 or 4, but they used 20. And that changed the whole model. And so then we were just able to really just approach the whole thing a lot.
into only doing one take. That's the most brilliant thing ever. This shooting it from 90 different angles. Why don't we just do it once? But
the
we do
truth
it
is-
honest. That's brilliant.
That is good.
But look, everybody in this room knows the honest answer to the question. Does it really get better by 3 or 4? I've never seen it get better.
I find myself honestly much better after take 3 or 4 for real. I'm
Really?
Not, yeah. I don't. I'm terrible in the first couple of takes.
Yeah, but what
Afterwards-
about everybody else in the scene?
That's a good point. That's why I shine, Mike. They take my take 4 and they
I'd
put
like
it with
to
your
do
take
just
1.
one more. I think the one smart thing I did, which was, again, completely by accident, I made them let me wear this stupid hat. All right, so I've got 600 of them.
So you have to do the reverse. If you don't want to get recognized, you just take the hat off.
I take the hat off. I swear to God, it's true.
Yeah, but as long as you don't talk.
Right.
It just sounds honest and comforting.
It just makes you want to buy a Ford. I would think. I mean, no, you know what? It's I started wearing a hat because I can't stand the whole makeup hair thing on sets or anything else, and it covers like a multitude of sins. And then on dirty jobs, it was just double practical because there was always shit falling on your head. So it's like hats, good idea. And then with the commercial stuff, I just said, honestly, I mean, you did hire me, right? Because you know me and you want people to know me. Yes. Well, this is what I look like.
And when you think about it, a lot of people look like me. So if you put somebody else out there,
no one's going to know.
And I just do the voiceover for my house.
It's really pretty simple.
That'll be the.
It's really pretty simple.
He never even has to show
It's
up.
the greatest negotiating ever. None of us want to be here. Don't we all just want the money? I think the car sells itself.
Yes.
I'll walk by counting the money.
Like whiskey on the frontier.
You doing Deadliest Catch?
Deadliest Catch is still around, yeah.
Yeah, and you've figured out a way to get in there, and you talk to the guys, I guess, after. Is it after a season?
It's called After the Catch, and it started as kind of a, what if we just did this? Because I'd always said about the show, as a fan, what people really want to do is sit down with these guys over a beer and just ask them anything they want. Right? I mean, pretty much like we're doing
when they don't
now.
have the pressure of...
with like 40-foot swells
ship,
coming over the wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And so we said, okay, let's try that. And so, and the first year we went up to a bar in, I think it was called the Lock Spot, maybe up in Seattle. So it's 6 crab boat captains and me in this smoky bar around this round table. It's basically Charlie Rose with cigarettes and whiskey. And of course, these guys are the real deal. They are themselves.
That's when you really notice it in that bar atmosphere, that little just sitting there and drinking, because they all come off like really great guys, but you can't relate to that lifestyle as far as being on a fishing boat and taking a life into your hands. But you can relate to sitting at a bar. Yeah. And these are guys that I think we've all sat at bars with at some point in our life.
The crazy thing for me was about 3-4 years ago when Phil died. Captain of the Cornelia Marie. I got maybe 10,000 letters, and I wrote his eulogy and posted it and got crashed my server, And I knew people liked him, and I knew the show was a thing, but what I didn't realize, I mean, really practically, was how relatable they are on a totally different level that you never think about. Like, Phil's the captain of a crab boat. He's got 2 kids. His kids have troubles. His crew gives him troubles. And you never think about it in terms of at home, some guy's watching who maybe works on a construction site, or maybe he's a school teacher. But everything that happens on the crab boat becomes like a microcosm for what's going on in his world. And that weird sort of connection is real. And when it was suddenly broken, it was shocking how many people reached out. So that's still there, and I think that's why people still watch the show.
Yeah, that was a weird thing, man. Because it's like, oh, you killed off a character on the show. No, he really died.
Did he die at work or did he die at home?
He died at work, but he died in such the most heart-stopping, mundane. He had an aneurysm, basically, right? He had a blood clot, an embolism, I mean. And it took him slow. I mean, he went down, he came back, they went to the hospital, and suddenly we're shooting a scene, in a Dutch Harbor hospital where he's saying goodbye to his boy and goodbye to the cameraman and then goodbye. And it's like fade to black. And suddenly, you're right. We got letters from like, okay, man, that was an amazing episode. So when's he coming back? People literally are so used to watching TV as, the scripted thing we know. All of a sudden, something like that happens. It's just, it takes people a while to get their head around it.
Yeah.
So he knew he was dying in that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, did he smoke a lot of cigarettes.
First time I met Phil, he had a cigarette. I swear this is true. He had a cigarette in his right hand. He had a cigarette behind his ear that was burning. Okay. He had a cigarette on his compass. Now, to be fair, the 30-foot way, there's green water coming over the bow, so things are very, very sporty. So he's got 4 cigarettes going in and around the wheelhouse, and I walked in, and he says, "Hey, Mike, how's it going?" And he takes a cigarette out of his mouth, puts it down, puts another fresh one in, and lights it for reasons I can't even. He's not even thinking. He's He's just moving, lighting, smoking, working, praying.
Yep. Every season just seems to get more treacherous. You would think that, I don't know, it would kind of lose its danger element, but again, it's so real that I was watching that ice, those chunks of ice coming down and hitting those guys.
Right.
I mean, that like boulders of solid ice falling on people on the deck.
Why doesn't somebody who owns a crab company just buy a fucking battleship and use that?
An ice cutter? We've done it.
Buy like a destroyer. Just go out with a bunch of nets. No, you don't even know what he just said. Think about it, because I'm the destroyer. Go on now. Sorry.
I freak out if I take a ferry. I'm dead serious. I am deathly afraid.
They are getting thrown around. Oh, the most openest water. It's freezing cold, and they're being thrown around. A calm day to them would be a nightmare to anybody on a pleasure boat. Yeah. And that to them is like, oh, it's a great day for fishing. And then the horrible days when they had that hurricane up there, that was insanity to watch. I'm like, this can't.
No,
someone's going to die.
The thing, it's at night when they're fishing at night and the water is black, and it's like if you go in, that is it.
You know what else
They're
does
not
it?
getting you.
It's
drowning would be the easiest.
It's those work lights. It's those sodium lights that they use, and they create this weird, like this orange bubble around the ship. So when you shoot one of the boats from a distance and you see the sleet and the snow and the rain and everything else coming in horizontal while these guys are working in big seas, it bathed in this weird, crappy orange thing. It looks hellish. And it is.
You imagine if the crabs had cameras, what their show would be? Like, they're just going for a snack and it's just a mass murder.
Crab Holocaust, really.
Yeah, they have their own show about
That's
this.
What it's called.
Murder from above.
It's don't go in the cage, man. Don't go in the cage. But there's food in the cage. Don't go in the cage.
Liberal crabs blaming each other.
Well, this entitlement society thinks that food should be left in a cage.
If we didn't look so delicious, man. And who would have thought you could get a show, even without the element of the danger and the personalities and everything that makes the show so great? There's that point where they're bringing up that pot, that crab pot, and you're going, did they hit a spot? Is that going to be full? You're wondering, and then it comes up empty. You're like, shit, he didn't get it.
No, finding the crab, it's an Easter egg hunt. But you're right, Anthony. When I narrate that thing, I mean, you'll do 4 or 5 in a row sometimes, and you get a little loopy. But really, from a clinical standpoint, the show could be called, what's in the pot?
Yeah.
Because each scene is like, what's in a pot? Crab, no crab. Crab, no crab. It's crab. Uh-oh, big wave. Run for your lives. Big wave. What's in a pot? Crab, no crab. Crab, no crab. It's so freaking cold out here. What's in a pot? Crab, no crab. So, I mean, it's
new guy. New guy doesn't know what he's doing.
New guy. Idiot, moron. Oh, there goes the thumb. What's in the pot? Crab, no crab.
That's the show.
It's the show. But people watch because you never ever know. It's like any game show with any reveal, right?
Yeah.
What's behind the curtain? What's in the box?
Is it any wonder you have all these shows? Like, you just describing the show is better than any pitch. It's like a game show.
That's what it is.
Everybody wins. We do one take.
What's in a pot? Here it is.
There's no makeup. Wear a hat. Everybody's happy.
We're all going to make money.
And after the season, I just want to sit down with all these guys and drink.
Can we make
put
a
a
show
camera
of that?
on it, and that'll be another show.
Because they can relate. As much as they don't fish, you hit your head and, you're trying to hammer up, a poster, and you hit your thumb. That hurts. One take, my hat. Let's do this. That's the show. Just do an establishing shot when that I'm there, and then I'll leave, and I'll just do the voiceover. I mean, people don't want to see me. They want to see these fishermen.
Those guys aren't.
Show.
Those guys would be the last people you would think could handle celebrity in any way, shape, or form, because they are kind of these really rugged, kind of get the job done guys. How do they? Like, you get guys like Sig is a fucking star.
Well, what happens is there's like a tipping point in all of our lives, right? Where we realize, maybe our reach exceeded our grasp just a little bit. It always happens. But with these guys, it's been fascinating to watch because it's not just like the boats on the show. That's not the fleet. There are 130 boats in the fleet. You've got 6 boats that we focus on. So you've got to imagine up in Dutch Harbor, from the Pribilofs all the way over to Akutan, these guys, they're a part of a community. And so there's a dynamic within the community of which they're a part that they've got to wrangle. And that, it's like you guys going back to your high school reunion.
Yeah,
and everybody's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so Anthony, how's it going? I think you know how it's going. Okay, it's good.
It's not too shabby.
It's not bad,
actually.
So,
so they come into the harbor, and then there's like, here come the fucking
here
stars.
comes Hollywood. So they got to deal with that.
Deadliest catch, the resentment. I catch flounder. I don't have balls. That's right. Water's water. Oh, get him some more makeup, Mary. It's gotta be what.
It's exactly right. But here, what happens is, look, in real life, they are the best. But in hyper life, like, nobody ever told a crab captain, in season 2 of a hit show in 180 countries, this is what they expect you to do in the lobby of the Mondrian. Okay? So just note to self, do these things. But here's also a brief list we've put together of things not to do. Okay?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. So it's almost like that, like a reverse halo effect, right? Where people see you, they want to buy you. They expect now that the job is to live up to the hugeness with which people like you and me would look at them and go, wow, it's Sig. Be Sig.
Yeah.
And what that means is smashing somebody over the head, drinking a pint of Drambuie and, working for 4 days straight. He doesn't want to do that. He just wants to have a shrimp cocktail and, maybe tell a story. But they've gotten really good at it. They've figured it out. But seasons 1 and 2, ooh.
It's 180 countries
brutal.
it's on? Wow.
It's a huge show.
Discovery, Dirty Jobs, Deadliest Catch. Most of their premiere shows are in 180 some countries.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's ridiculous. Dirty Jobs aired when it was really in its wheelhouse, like in 06 and 07, 08, 700 times a year in this country.
Yeah, one of the worst is that door on that. It was almost like a lock, I think, or something, and you had to go into these little compartments to grease that shit. I got
clean it out. Something worse just happened to me in Australia. You're talking about a hurricane barrier.
Yes, that was the one
in Stanford, right? It comes up. Right, it blocks the harbor in a storm surge.
Get inside of it.
There's just like dozens of these little steel coffins that men have to crawl in and paint, and then scrape off all of the barnacles and put on zinc diodes. It's a horrible job. But in Coober Pedy, Australia, a couple of months ago, we took the show down under, and I know you're a claustrophobic sort of guy. You'll love this. Opal mining. Have you ever seen anybody mine for opal before?
I can't say I have.
Here's a short version. It's not like gold mining. It's not like bituminous coal. It's not like anthracite. It's not like any other kind of mining you've seen. It's you dig a hole, a shaft, really. So picture a manhole cover, about 80 feet deep. And then they sit you on a 2x4, like a bosun's chair, and they lower you into this hole. And you're looking for faults and fissures in the rock. Opals live between sandstone and soapstone, right? And if you find this little fissure,
I was going to say that. Sorry, go ahead, continue.
So if you find a fissure, all right, then you drill another shaft, and when you're comfortable enough, you go in with big equipment and dig a whole cavern out. But the point is, you can't do any of this until you go to the bottom of an 80-foot shaft, and your shoulders literally are touching the sides, right?
Shit.
So if you were like an inch tall in the bottom of a Coke bottle, that's what it's like. Only you're looking up, and remember the movie with the girl in the well? What's it called? The Ring?
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs?
No, the ring.
The ring.
The girl's in the well, and she looks up. Man, it's so much worse because the drill's this big, and the more comfortable you are, the slower you work. The slower you work, the poorer you are. The poorer you are, the more pathetic you become. So go faster.
Faster,
Faster
smaller
is
hole.
better.
So what are
faster
some
to
of the
drill.
horrible things that have happened? The rope snaps. Now you're down there.
Oh man,
No.
We only had
that-
budget for one rope.
That does happen, but what's worse, and this happens all the time, because in Coober Pedy, which is South Central Outback, there's no MSHA, there's no OSHA, there's nothing, right? So these holes, there are thousands of them.
Oh, shit.
There are thousands of them.
But they just leave them.
They just leave them. Okay, so every year, some tourist will go out there, with their camera and back up into one.
Oh man,
And they'll find them a season or two
oh,
later.
there goes another American.
Do they at least die on the fall?
Oh, no, because even though it's a long fall, you got this effect.
Oh,
it's
you're
like
bouncing
like
off
a
the
pinball
walls a
bouncing
little
off
bit.
the walls.
That'd
So
be
no,
nice.
But the hard would be falling in head first, right?
Oh,
because
man.
you don't have enough room
To turn around.
So you spend literally your last 5 days
On
of
your
consciousness Maybe with the broken back. You're on your head, upside down, 90 feet underground.
Have they found people like that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And kangaroos and emus and ostriches.
Wallabies.
Wallabies, sure that
You know what'd be worse is if you
dingo.
fell down. Even if you fall down there, if somebody's going to drop a bottle of water down there, it's going 80 feet. It's going to hit like terminal velocity, smash you in the head.
You know what these assholes do? They'll pee on you, on their friends, when they're down there looking.
Oh,
guys
man.
are just coming at this. Hey, it's raining. It's raining. Oh, we're
Those
funny.
Aussies
We're
are
Australian.
hilarious like that.
They love
Humor.
it. Good fun.
You've probably been to pretty much every country in the world.
No, I mean 6 continents, 50 states, most of the major countries, but
Yeah.
no, not all of them.
What about the Dark Continent?
I've been to the dark.
You've been there,
continents.
yeah?
It's dark.
What'd you have to do there?
We went to let's see, Johannesburg, and then down to Cape Town for Shark Week back in '06.
Oh, right, okay.
And then I went to the Western Desert to explore the Sands of the Dead, which is the largest charted graveyard in human history, with Sahi Hawass to plunder tombs in search of golden masks.
Do you get bored at parties when people try to tell you a story? You're sitting on all of these stories like, yeah, I was in Long Island the other day. Do I go with the shark cage one or the falling down the 80-foot hole and getting peed on?
So the desert, yeah, this was years ago for Discovery, but somebody, some goat farmer in the middle of nowhere stumbled across a hole which led into a grave, and being an enterprising goat herder, he raided the tomb, and opening the sarcophagi, he found the remains of whatever, but there was a golden mask where the face would be, and so this suggested some kind of royalty. But nobody had any record of any royalty ever being in that part of the Western Desert. And so they began to explore some more, found more tombs, more golden masks. So nobody knew what this was. It didn't line up with anything we knew about Egypt in that time or world. And so I went over there with this archaeologist, and we did a thing called Egypt Week Live, and basically just fancy talk for tomb raiding. But
Are you afraid of?
Now, does that guy get the goat herder? He found it. Does he gets to keep it?
He's never been seen again. I have no idea, actually. We found hundreds of them, and it was ultimately...
Belloc stole every one of them from him. That's what happened.
Belloc's always there. No, it was basically Beverly Hills. What they found was this community was a community of very prosperous merchants, and in relative terms, it would be like finding Beverly Hills 5,000 years from now, and digging up through Rodeo Drive, going, "What the heck? What was here?"
Bunch of plastic bags. They used to be tits.
That's a great mystery.
What are these things?
Somebody explain
It's
this.
crazy. They're all over the place.
Have you ever been in a shark cage?
Oh yeah.
How safe are those?
Yeah, I mean, look, a shark cage is fine. Most people get hurt in cages, get hurt because they take their camera and they put it outside the cage, because they want to get a shot, but they don't want the bars in the way.
Rather than using the zoom.
Yeah, because people aren't bright. And then something will come by and snag them.
You can
That's
say
how
what?
most people get hurt.
A shark?
Well, it's not necessarily a shark. It could be anything. But cages are dangerous because they create an illusion of complete safety, and then you become really complacent,
I
and
saw
that's
that
where you get hurt.
footage where the shark got into the cage.
Oh, yeah.
With 2 guys in there. The shark just ran through. They had taken one of the bars out to get a better view with the camera. Shark, and it was a big one, probably a 13, 15 footer, slams into this opening in the cage.
25.
He's 25. And he was in the cage with these guys. One of them realized, when his head turned the other way, he went through another hole and got out and just left the other guy in there.
Yeah.
The other guy decided he would leave that cage. He
Oh,
got
look,
out.
it's the old story being chased by a bear, right? The guy
slow-
says, "You know how fast those bears run? Doesn't matter, man. I just got to run faster than you."
Yeah.
That's it.
The Anthony Podcast.
Yes,
Great
no
when
in
you're
the
on
shark
the
cage. Safe?
So, safer than free diving with sharks. Don't do that. I mean, that's just ill-advised. Get in the cages. It's harmless. It's fun. But if they ever offer to put you in the steel mesh suit, the shark
no,
suit,
I would never do that.
Well, I did that. I got bit. about 40 times. One tooth got through. There's still a hole in my freaking shin bone from it.
How do you top these stories?
I know you don't.
Here's how you top it. Forget the sharks. It's not the shark. It's when you dive, and I've moderately experienced diver, but you got an extra 50 pounds on you, which screws up everything. You've got shark bouncing off your chest, which elevates your You're right. I ran out of air at 65 feet on the test dive before Shark Week. And that was to this day, the scariest thing that's happened to me on this stupid show.
What'd you have to do?
How long did it take them to get you back up?
Well, what happened was I had 40 minutes of air. I burned through it in 29.
So you hold your breath for 11 minutes.
That's like that's
Impressive.
like bombing, blowing through your material. Except underwater.
Yeah, you just did your closing bit. You're at 17. Good boy.
Well, it was totally humiliating. But there was a reporter there named Leon for TV Guide, international writer, and he was right next to me, and he looked at my gauge, and he was like, "Uh-oh, up we go," and I was like, "Look, I'm never going to make it." My last breath was an exhale, so I wasn't wearing a normal regulator. He was, but I wasn't. I had a full face mask on.
Oh, man, so you can't.
And I had a bicycle helmet screwed into it because a week earlier, a shark had bit somebody in the back of the head, so the insurance company made me wear this bicycle helmet. So he can't get my
share
mask
a regulator
off.
with the guy
Right.
because you got a mask on your face.
Now, I'm also out of air. All right, I got 40. I'm dressed up like freaking Ivanhoe. Okay, I'm dead weight. This guy grabs me, floods his BC, and the two of us kick as hard as we can, and we get to the surface. It takes about 80 seconds. And so I lost my peripheral vision.
You started getting tunnel vision.
And I stopped caring, to tell you the truth.
Whoa.
Oh, that dopamine or something started
Oh,
coming out.
It was just
man.
like, about 10 feet from the surface, I'm looking around going, all in all, I had a pretty good run.
This is going to be, my eulogy is going to be great. They'll play clips.
Sirius XM, the virus. You're listening to Anthony.